every workshop that I host, even if there is kids that do not like to write, there are kids that do, and they understand the assignment, and they're willing to share, and they share pieces that help me be able to prove the point of this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt. I am the vice president at Heart and Solutions, in charge of our BHIS department, where we go in home and work with children ages 4 through 18 on different behavioral skills. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
So today we have a return guest. Joining us from Quad Cities area, we've got Trameka Woods. And if you remember back to about January of this year, Trameka joined us to talk about Express and Flow Incorporated. And she talked to us about bullet journaling. She talked to us about how writing down our emotions and our experiences serves as a receipt of sorts for ourselves, so that we can remember those feelings and experiences, so that we can track any patterns that we might see in our emotions. And in that episode, we did not get to talk about how about hope. And so if you remember back to previous episode, we've had Simone Collins and we had Michaela on the episode to talk about how about hope, but we are very excited to talk with Trameka about how about hope, because she is a board member there as well. So welcome, Trameka. Thank you for coming back.
Yes, thank you guys for having me again. It is a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So can you remind everybody, what is How About Hope? What is it that you guys do?
Yep. So with How About Hope, we want to shed light on mental health awareness, mental health advocacy, emphasizing on, as well as suicide awareness. So it has a lot to focus on giving those hope in the community if they have been struggling with mental health issues or suicide, or new people who committed it or even had suicidal ideations of their own. So that's what the organization focuses on. So within the area, I'm actually a newer board member. I think I've probably been involved for like a year, but How About Hope has been around for quite some time, with Michaela Hughes-Shaw being the founder and Simone Collins being the president, but they have been around for quite some time. And since I have been a part, there was an incident to where a young male in the community committed suicide. We made sure that we gathered care packages for their family. We let them know who we are, what we do, and how we're there for support. So mainly things like that, just advocacy on mental health and then suicide awareness.
Awesome. And how did you get involved with How About Hope? How did you join the board?
Yep. So Simone Collins and I are fairly close best friends, if you will. So she contacted me before we even got as close as we are, and let me know that they were looking to expand their board, and thought that I would be a great asset to their team, giving what I am a part of and what I do. So I said, absolutely, I want to be a part. I want to do more for our community, and I definitely feel like mental health and suicide awareness is something that we should shed light on in our community, whereas it's so shunned. So when she gave me the opportunity, I jumped on it. And so I probably have been on the board now, like I said, for nearly a year, going on a year.
And you've got some great programs and events coming up for How About Hope. Can you tell us what's coming up for you guys?
Yes. So we have what is called the Be Beautiful in Your Own Skin is what we're calling it. So Be Beautiful in Your Own Skin variety show. And what we are, the goal for this show is to let people be able to broadcast whatever talents they have, being comfortable in their own skin with getting up and doing that in a judge-free zone. We'll be having some speakers that's going to speak on, how self-care works with beauty, hair care, and things of that nature. So we have people in the field that actually are cosmetologists or hair beauticians that are going to be speaking and just teaching us about self-care and how to be beautiful in your own skin. Yep. And so, like I said, it's a variety show. So all talents are welcome. It's going to be on July 1st from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we are actually partnering with Clock Inc. We're going to use their establishment to host the event. And that address is 4102 46th Avenue in Rock Island.
Awesome. Funny, we've interviewed Clocky before too as a
Yep.
guest on the podcast, so everyone's connected. Okay, so you mentioned suicide awareness is one of the big things you guys focus on. What are some of the other programs you guys offer, or is it more like suicide focused?
Well, mental health too. But in all honesty, it's kind of like, those are the things that How About Hope is, if you will, passionate about, but they're involved with everything in the community. Anything that they see that is something that would be a good avenue to take or a good partnership to have, they usually are on it. So what we do, like I said, we want to talk about, mental health and suicide awareness and things of that nature. Recently, the board members were required to send in a small blurb about what mental health means to them and why, and then our picture, and it was like a round robin of the board members getting posted like on a weekly basis of what they said and their picture and how they are feeling in regards to mental health. And basically support and advocacy on the behalf of mental health. So suicide awareness and mental health, but partnering with everybody in the community who's striving to make a better impact on our community as a whole.
Wow. And you do a lot of speaking events and just getting different community members together. I love the take on be beautiful in your own skin and incorporating that outer beauty into that inner beauty that we have as individuals. And I think that sometimes there's this separation that happens, or there's this sense that, okay, well, focusing on my outer beauty might be superficial, right? Or might not have to do with my inner growth. But what you guys are acknowledging is it's all connected. It is
Absolutely.
all connected. It's not one or the other. And so combining cosmetology with mental health and awareness is what a beautiful marriage that I think is maybe an unexpected marriage. Yeah. Where did that idea come from?
I think what we were discussing as a team on when we start planning this is that I think when people hear kind of what you just said, like be beautiful in your own skin, it's all about the external, like what's on the outside. How are you keeping yourself up, physically, your appearance, what's your style like, what's your personality, how you do your hair, how you dress, things of that nature. And in all honesty, being beautiful is also within. And I think even with the flaws that we all could carry, being able to accept those flaws and understand that you're beautiful in every way that you are, even if you do have mental health challenges, even if you do struggle on a daily basis with knowing if you're coming or going, or knowing if you made the right choice, knowing if you're going down the right path, even if you have those struggles internally, you're still beautiful. Not just externally, but inside. It doesn't matter how jacked up you might feel like you are. People understand and get that you are beautiful. And so that's kind of where it came from. And just getting people out there to feel comfortable, as well as getting up in front of people and showcasing their talents. Because, sometimes I think that gets swept under the rug too. Like, you're so talented, you have all this passion about certain things, but because you go through so much stuff, you don't feel as if you have a voice that is worthy enough to be heard. So just trying to kill that stigma as well.
Love that. So how can people get involved with the event? Are you still looking for vendors, or how can
we are?
Okay, go ahead.
We are. So I'm pretty sure that we talked about extending the deadline to get things in regards to like what your talent is, in regards to just signing up in general. So what we would like you guys to do, if you are willing to be a part, is contact How About Hope on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. We also have, her name is Alyssa Gordon, but she is our board member that's actually doing like the promotion. She's doing the getting it all together and setting it up and figuring out who it is that wants to be a part. But I will actually give you information in regards to what we're actually looking for. So is, like I said, it's celebration of who you are, and want to encourage you and others to honor yourselves, be beautiful. And what they want is for you to register by email or direct message. So you can direct message How About Hope. You can email How About Hope. On Facebook, that they have all the contact information you would need. And then you need to give your name, your email address, your phone number, your act of choice. And they are welcoming all ages to participate. So, and they're also saying it's a family event. So bring everyone, all come and gather together.
Cool. It really ties in with, I know last time you were here, we were talking about Express and Flow, and what you're doing at How About Hope, there's a similarity there in terms of when we were talking about writing, we were talking about how a lot of times that focus gets put on the product and
Absolutely.
talents as well. With talents like, well, I enjoy singing. So much of the time that product, that end result, well, I want to go book gigs, right? Or I want to go, I want to sing because I want to put out a record, right? And promote that and tour, do concerts. And those products become so heavily focused on, same with writing. I want to write a book, or I want to publish in a magazine. Whereas what you guys are doing is you're saying, no, the talent itself, the act of doing the skill or the talent is the product. That is the point.
Absolutely.
Cool. So what kinds of acts are you guys looking for, or what do you currently have?
Yeah, so one of the speakers is actually he does hair, and so he's a hair beautician, and he's going to be speaking about how self-care and hair go hand in hand, and how. And then we have dancers, we have spoken word, and right now, many of those who have signed up, I don't really know who all has signed up at this point. We haven't discussed that quite yet, but we're looking for a variety of things. Like our board members, for instance, I'll be doing spoken word. We have another board member that will also be doing her dancing. She's a great dancer, Alyssa Gordon. And so with that, we are also trying to be a part too, to show like, everybody can be a part of this. We're on the board, we're hosting this event, but we're going to join you, and feeling good about being beautiful and showing you that we all have a part in hand in this. So
cool. That'll be good. That sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
So how do people get involved in your services then as well with How About Hope? So if people are interested in like participating in the suicide awareness or events like that, like how can they get referred to your services?
Yep. Basically the same way with how we're encouraging all to reach out regarding the event. I think the best practice would be sending an email. Whereas those like the president Simone Collins has access to, and be able to get back to you in a reasonable time. And then if you direct message, the same way, like, there's going to be a reasonable turnaround for your response. So direct message or email.
Yeah, and I think it's such a great place to start too, because you do such a wide variety of supports that somebody can say, okay, this is my situation. I don't know what I need, but I need support. I need help.
Absolutely.
And then you can connect them with the resources that with their situation.
Absolutely.
Ah, beautiful. So you are now Express and Flow. I know last time we talked about you were expanding into adults and being able to do those workshops for adults, whereas before you had been working with more younger people, 10 to 17. How has that been going with the adult work?
Yes. So what we were doing was snack and rights, and actually it started a year ago around this time. And so, to be honest, we went a different direction. Snack and rights are still a thing. Don't get me wrong, but we started our own podcast too.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so we kind of went like a different direction with engaging our adults. But we are in the works of getting a snack and right planned again, because people have actually been reaching out to us, and we're like, they've been sharing pictures, and they're like, we miss this, like we need another one. So we're looking at doing one this month, closer to the end of the month. And then I also have gone back in, like the kids, that's where my passion lies. I love everyone. I love working with the adults too. We all need coping skills as well. But the kids is where my passion lies. So I've had the opportunity to go into the Moline School District and do workshops. I did one a couple Fridays ago with 4 different classes. I was there from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., 8th graders, and it was just phenomenal. So we are definitely getting our hands dirty with Express and Flow. Child Abuse Prevention Conference, we had a workshop there, and that was just a month or so ago. And so yeah, we're doing a lot. Adults, like I said, adults are still our focus as well. We just went a different direction, and we're asked, like, it's on demand. We need snack and rights, so they're coming soon.
That's exciting. What is your guys' podcast called, and what can people expect from that?
Yeah, so it's called Walk It Like I Talk It Roundtable Chat. So what we are doing is discussing adversities that we see within the community, that are kind of like touchy subjects, and we're bringing on those in the community who we feel would be good people to help us, like, walk out what we're trying to talk about. So the first one we did, we talked about adversity facing the community for those who have like a felony criminal background, and how you can overcome it. And we had a speaker talking about that. And then the last one we did in regards to stereotypes on, certain individuals of race, class, gender within the community. And then we just had one on financial literacy. So bringing people in that can help us, like, narrow down on, okay, these are adversities that we face, but how are we going to overcome them also?
Yeah. Wow, walk it like I talk it. I love that, because when you were talking about the variety show and how the board members are going to showcase their own talents and join in, that was what went through my mind, was you're walking the walk, right?
Absolutely.
You're modeling that for any of the participants to the variety show, that you're doing it too. And so what a great title for your podcast. That's perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, beautiful. So what other themes or episodes do you guys have coming up that we can look forward to?
Oh, yeah. So when I say like touchy subjects, they are touchy subjects, but we're not like, and the reason for doing this is because we want to give people, Express and Flow is all about expressing yourself in a respectable manner, though. We want to make sure people know that you can express yourself, but be respectful while you're doing so. So we're just touching on subjects that we know people think about on a daily basis, depending on what community you're involved in, and kind of like where you're at within this whole world and communities. Genres, if you will, like there's different setups for everybody and what they're accustomed to. So we are going to focus on in this next one, what draws people away or draws people to the Black church. So yep. And like I said, it's going to be, it's respectful, none of that, but we just know, like, within the community we serve, we can see this being kind of like an issue for people, and people are like teeter-tottering on the fence, and we just want to bring awareness to it and give people tools on how to walk it like you talk it, and stay grounded despite of any adversities that you could possibly face.
Wow. So the Black church specifically, so
Yes.
not religion and church, but specifically Black churches.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges that, or the draws or the things that draw people in or away when it comes to Black church?
I think it's because there's a huge barrier within those who have grown up in the Black church. Like, they've been going since they were yay high, like 3 or 4 years old, and then they're like grown into it, right? They're continuously going. They have this longevity within it. And then there's the newcomers, which is the newer saints who start maybe within their middle age of life, 20, 25, maybe a little bit younger than that. And they are not necessarily as accustomed to all of the protocol, if you will, or all of the norms as those who started from toddler age beyond. So there's a lot of like barriers because of that most of the time. And so it kind of draws people away who are newer to become engaged because of these barriers or differences, things like that. So just trying to make it more noticeable, and then inform people like, you're not alone. We see it too, but this is how we can try to overcome it.
Wow, so interesting. The different kinds of churches and the different the unwritten rules between different sects and different churches. What a great topic.
Yeah.
I'm excited to listen to that one.
Yes.
Because it really, so there's I'm Korean, but I was adopted when I was young, and there's a Korean church. And I had some interactions with this Korean church for something not related to like religion or really the basis of the church, but I had some interactions. And I remember, for me, feeling very like, I don't know what I can do, right? Like, do I belong here? Am I Korean enough for this church and this community and this group, right? And just feeling like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to interact. And I don't know what those unwritten rules are as I'm coming to these services and as I'm doing and I'm trying to learn by watching people, right? And so I love that you guys are acknowledging that, yeah, there are these barriers to entry when it comes to adults who didn't grow up in the church coming in, and that you guys are going, yeah, how do we acknowledge that and then create more of a zero entry point, yep, right? As opposed to a step or a wall that somebody's got to climb up. So what a great topic. That is very, very cool. And I like that your podcast, as with Express and Flow, is about having the conversations in a respectful manner and teaching ourselves and teaching other people by example how we do that. I think it's beautiful. Wow. Yes. So those are some great episodes coming up. And so how can a school who wants to have a workshop from Express and Flow, or how can somebody who wants to have a group in their area, how can they get signed up for it?
Yes. So how I was sought out within the Moline School District, I still had information up on the Midwest Writing Center's website because I was partnering with them when I first started out. Great opportunity, and still working on getting a meeting set up with the organization with Midwest Writing Center and what they have going on. So this particular teacher sought me out there. And so we kind of communicated from there. She emailed me. So email is the great way to reach out, which is just my first and last name at gmail.com. And then you can also DM Express and Flow Inc. on Facebook as well. I will say either one will be a quick turnaround, but if you want a little bit of a faster one, email would be best. And then we can set up, our action plan and go from there with details about what you're looking for and what we are able to provide for you.
What was the workshop that you did offer? Like, what kind of things did you work on?
So they are an English literature class. So all four of the classes that I worked with, it was pertaining to their English lit class. And so they were already working on poetry and how to write poems and things of that nature. So their teacher encouraged me to spin off of that and just go into, poetry writing. What types of poems do I suggest that are, good for this type of age range? And we talked about a few that I used. I explained to them what poems I suggest you to use, especially if you're a beginner versus a more advanced writer. So our workshops pertain to writing poetry. And I'm also going back in June this month. Yeah, I'm going back this month on the 27th for their summer workshop opportunity. So with that one, she just gave me a free for all. She was like, you don't have to tailor to one specific topic, just go for it. So with this one, I'm just going to go for it. And these students actually signed up because they enjoy writing. The workshops at this class, it was a mixture, but this one, they enjoy writing. So yep, it's a free for all and I'm excited. And yeah, so it was a good time, a very good time.
Yeah, if you ever start doing virtual retreat type workshops, our agency does a virtual retreat every December, and that would be so cool. That would be so fun. So I'll reach out to you about that.
Please
that
do.
Would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Because I know last time we talked, you talked about the in-person workshops and the benefit of being in the same room with somebody and writing and then being able to share. But at the same time, writing is so broad. Writing is so customizable that there definitely, it sounds like, would be an opportunity to be able to do some of those things, even when you're not in the same room with somebody.
That's absolutely true. And when I did the child abuse prevention conference, they actually had Zoom as an option. So I was presenting to, in person, but then they also had it set up for those who could not be there to participate on Zoom, and it went really well. So you're absolutely correct. It can be virtual and work just the same as if it was in person.
Wow. What kinds of activities did you do virtually?
Yep. So a majority of it was me explaining to them what Express and Flow was and how they can incorporate it within the work that they do with their youth, whether that's them having children, ages 10 to 17, or whether that's them working in services that they provide particular services to that age group as well. But we did an icebreaker, and the icebreaker consisted of writing. And within this icebreaker, they were encouraged to bullet point journal, which I think I explained to you guys the first time we chat. I let you know what a bullet point journaling was and how I use it. So they were encouraged to bullet point journal how their morning went for them with just emotions and feelings. So they were encouraged to share, were they rushed? Were they anxious, frustrated, excited? Bullet point journal those feelings out so they can see how that morning reflected their day. Like, oh, did my day start off really bad because I woke up and I was rushed, I was late, I was anxious, or did I have a really good morning, or am I off to a good start because I woke up in a peaceful state of mind? I'm excited to be up. I'm well rested, things of that nature. So then they can just kind of reflect back and see, oh, my emotions were like this. This is probably why it's going like that. And they did it and they liked it. So yeah.
Cool. So I know you mentioned your summer program is high schoolers that like writing and want to write. And at school, when you did it in the class, there was probably a bunch of kids that also did not enjoy writing. So how do you address those barriers with the kids who don't want to write poetry? Like, how can you help them work on that?
Yes. Yes. So they're eighth graders going into high school. And so, yep. So I went around the room for introductions and I asked them to share their name and whether or not they like to write. I kid you not, 3 out of the 4 classes, I don't even think a third love to write. Like they just was, none of them raised their, they were just not into it. And I was like, you know what? That's perfectly fine because writing is not for everybody. Like you don't have to like to write. It's not for everybody. But what I want to do is show you how this can actually be beneficial to you if you were to utilize it to get some of those toxins out that you struggle with on a daily basis that you're not comfortable with talking to adults about, your peers, parents, let me show you what this can do for you. And the great thing about it is every workshop that I host, even if there is kids that do not like to write, there are kids that do, and they understand the assignment and they're willing to share, and they share pieces that help me be able to prove the point of this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So every class that happened. So I never really get wrapped around the fact that they're not going to eventually at the end see why it's beneficial, because it actually always up until now, it has, ended up that way. Like the children are able to show why it's important. But I still leave that open for them to you don't have to like it. And, that's perfectly fine. But just see what it can potentially be for you. Just be open-minded. So it works out.
Yeah. Well, because the premise that writing is useful for our mental health is a solid premise. And so you don't need to go into these classrooms and convince students that that's the case, because as you facilitate the activities, they find that for themselves and they share with each other. And so because you've got a solid premise, it speaks for itself through these interventions that you're doing.
Absolutely.
And it reminds me of, there was a study done with children, I think all the way up to high school, and they followed the same kids. And every year they asked them, are you an artist? And in preschool, every single kid was like, I'm an artist, I'm so good at art, right? And then in kindergarten, a few less said, yes, I'm an artist, right? And then by high school, like 3, right, out of the class said, I'm an artist. And it doesn't mean, and what they found was, it doesn't mean that the act of creating was any less beneficial to them or enjoyable to them. It was that over the years, things had happened where they compared their art to other people and said, oh, mine isn't as good, I'm not an artist. Or, somebody doesn't like my art, and so I'm not an artist. And that identity of being an artist slowly started to fade. And I would imagine it's similar with writing. When children are young, they're always thinking of songs, right? They're making up song lyrics, they're making up poetry. And then as they get older, the same thing happens. That comparison kind of steals that identity from us. And so I love that you're saying, no, it's not contingent on somebody identifying as a writer or not. These practices are beneficial whether we think we're good at it or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And do you find that there is, in the same way that there's stigma with mental health services and counseling and supports, do you find that there's a stigma about poetry?
Absolutely. And so the teacher and I were actually talking about this, and after one of the workshops, she was like, I feel like some of the boys over there in that corner, I saw them writing. So they did write things down, but because they don't want to be vulnerable in front of their peers and let their friends hear what they have written, they're not going to share. But they wrote stuff down. They have a lot that they have written down. They've been doing every exercise. And I said, you know what? You're absolutely correct. What it is with that age range is that they're in a place of vulnerability. So if you're doing a workshop, and it's with these kids, and there's a group of them versus a one-on-one, 9 times out of 10, those who would potentially share with you in the one-on-one are not going to share in that group setting because they're being vulnerable in front of peers where they're supposed to look, popular. They're supposed to look like the cool kid. They're not supposed to look like they have any struggles. So yeah, there is a huge stigma, especially with this age group that I serve, just due to the fact of not wanting anybody to see what it is that they struggle with. And like another example, some kids that do right outside of what I was trying to incorporate with them or what they do in school, their poems were about challenges they face with parents, challenges they have outside of the school, at home. They get what writing does for them, and they were brave enough to be able to share that amongst us. And I think when those kids saw that, a lot of them were just like dumbfounded, like, did she really just tell the whole class this? Like, but then at the same time, they were looking like, wow, that could be admirable. That could be a real release for me if I can get to that point. So, yep, it is definitely a stigma placed on it, especially for the youth ages. They don't want to look wide open.
Is there less of a stigma on spoken word than there is on the term poetry?
You know what? I don't think there is, because when you think, for me, when I think of spoken word and poetry, they go hand in hand for me. Poetry is what you have written, and then the spoken word is you reciting what you wrote. So to me, they go hand in hand to me. And with that, if you are amongst people, you don't know, for one, spoken word and poetry is already touchy subjects. When I write, I'm writing I'm getting the pain out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm getting this pain that I've carried out. I'm getting these experiences that were not the best for me. It's not always sorrow filled, but majority of the time it is. And so when you speak that or recite that in front of a group of people, you don't necessarily know how they're going to receive it. You don't know what they're going to, how they're going to feel, if they're going to feel where you're coming from or not. And that's being a spoken word artist or doing spoken word, you have to have, you got to be a little bit brave, because you don't necessarily know how the other insecurities. You're shedding light onto your insecurities. You're shedding light onto your struggles in most cases, and you just don't know how it's going to be received. So there is a stigma with that too, especially a stigma of getting it out there, because you just never know.
And I heard you say that you're doing spoken word at your guys' event on the 1st also. Yep. How did you get started with doing spoken word?
Oh, wow. So I really got a big grip on all of this when I was 15. We had AOL, we had dial-up. My mom let me put my desktop in my room. So I was on AOL often, and I was always in the chat rooms that consisted of music, poetry, rap, things of that nature. And I was meeting people all over the world and listening to some of their pieces and things like that. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start reciting what I write, because why am I just going to write it and then not get it out there? Like, I want people to hear my position on things and have my voice heard, especially being in a time frame where you don't feel like you're heard at all. I'm like, this is a way for people to hear me. So I started around then, and then as I got older, I grew a deeper passion for it. I come from like a family of those who love music. It's in our genes. But I just took a twist with it, and I like poetry a little bit more. And yeah, and so and to be honest with you, to be comfortable in doing so as an adult, I have not always had it. Not at all. Even with me hosting and running Express and Flow, I have not always had that confidence, because like I said, you're wide open, you're vulnerable, and you're in front of people who do not know you whatsoever most of the times. And so, yeah, I just got as confident as I need to be to get out what I'm trying to accomplish, like recently. So
wow, what a great share. I appreciate that so much, because, to hear you speak about Express and Flow, and to hear you speak about How About Hope and all of these projects that you're so passionate about, in my mind, she's so brave, right? She's out there doing the spoken word and writing her poetry and speaking it and presenting it. And so, to me, hearing about all of this, I go, oh my gosh, she's so in touch with her feelings, and she's being so vulnerable, and she's so brave. And so to hear you say, I haven't always had that. That has not always been the case. I don't always feel brave. I rise to the occasion for the thing that that's important, the thing that I'm passionate about. But to hear you say, no, it's work to do that. It's work to be brave. And that's not just something that we're naturally born with always. What an inspiration that is. And what a beautiful share on being vulnerable.
Thank you. Yeah.
I love that. I hope everybody hears that. That, it's work to do that. It's an active process to be vulnerable and brave, and be able to share our work that expresses who we are. So beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. So we have a quote from you, and it says, in order to grow, you need a little bit of rain, sunshine, and shade. Embrace each season and blossom. What does this quote mean to you?
Yes. So I went from the metaphor of thinking of a flower, obviously, or even, a flower. Yes, nature. So with a flower, in order for it to grow, what does it need? It needs water. It needs some flowers are they need shade to be at their best. And then rain. So they need, all these different, sun, sorry, they need all these, those three factors to grow to their greatest potential. So as a human being, if you translate that into, humanity, we are going to have rainy days. We are going to have days that are not good. We don't know whether we're coming or going. It's just a dark cloud over us. We need that rain, though, to continue to grow. We're going to have days that are full of sunshine. We're going to have days that are great. We're going to feel at our utmost best. And those days are just as important as the days that are raining. And then we need shade sometimes, shade being misunderstood, shade being not received, shade being not included, being excluded. You could need that too to grow and to be successful. So all of these things, as well as they work to grow a flower, they also work to grow you within your humanity, your self-confidence, your drive, your passion. So as you consume all of these things, make sure that you still blossom and become the greatest you from these entities of life.
I love that. So you wrote that quote yourself?
I did. I did, because I'm like, you know what? I was experiencing all of that. And so in most cases, those sunny days or those rainy days and that shade you receive can definitely overpower the good days. And I want everybody to remember, like I had to, you need those just as well as the good days so that you can be your best self. You learn from that shade that you're thrown. You learn from that rain that you had to endure and still blossom because it's a part of your path.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So if you could give a suggestion to somebody on the fence about either starting counseling or starting writing or joining a workshop or something like that, what suggestion might you give them?
Do it. Just simply do it. Like, I know that sounds like really? Yeah, really. Do it. Just go and do it, because you're going to see that all of the stigma behind it, me growing up in my cultural background is called a shrink, you know what I'm saying? And it's just so much shunned against it and stigmatized. It is one of the best things that you could ever experience for yourself. You're in a neutral setting. You have the ability to choose what works best for you or not regarding that particular counselor. You have options, you have choices. This is your baby to mold and develop. Like, you have the ability to make what you think is good for you be good for you within this particular avenue. And then as far as writing, the same thing. If you are one that does not like an audience, if you are one that doesn't want people looking in your eyes when you're talking about things you've endured or gone through, write it on paper. Keep it on paper and keep it somewhere to where no one else can get it but you. Remember where it's at and use that as the avenue until you're comfortable with getting in front of that person to explain those thoughts and feelings.
Absolutely. Wonderful. There's so much similarity between counseling and writing because it's all about different avenues to express ourselves in a safe way and in a way that we're comfortable with.
Absolutely.
We love having you here on the show, Trameka, and we thank you so much for all of the information, all of the great work that you're doing at Express and Flow and at How About Hope.
I am Trameka Woods, and I need a counselor.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. Now, we want to hear from you. Text us or give us a call at 515-650-3231. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call at 800-531-4236. And if you're a provider seeking play therapy CEUs, you can find us on patreon.com/youneedatraining. We'll see you for the next episode, Sunday at 5.